Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show with your host, Bill Shelton. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Welcome to the Michigan Golfer. The decade of the 70s, the Ryder Cup matches. Not much changed as the United States shut out the team from Great Britain, and as we'll find out in the decade of the 70s, from Ireland and then finally from all of Europe, as changes were made. Again, we're delighted to have Walter Hagen with us to talk a little bit about the Ryder Cup and what was going on. The decades kicked off a guy named Lee Trevino. Now, he had had an appendectomy just a few weeks before the Ryder Cup, but he came in the 71 and just dominated. And so he was on the scene and he was dominating for the U.S. team. But probably when you talk about the 71 Ryder Cup matches, it was a conversation that took place between a caddy and a player that got most of the attention.
Absolutely. Bernard Gallagher's caddy was watching Arnold Palmer hit par 3 shot, and Arnold just hit a beautiful, beautiful shot, and Bernard's caddy was so smitten with it that he asked Arnold, what club did you hit with that? And Arnold replied, a 5-iron, and that was great, except it was against the rules. Not supposed to be able to do that in match play, and as a result, the match had to be forfeited. But the rules are there for a purpose, and unfortunately, he was so smitten with the way Palmer hit the shot that he asked, and he got the information he wanted, but not the result.
Well, that's true, and so once again, the United States team in 1971 wins the Ryder Cup. Well, in 1973, another adjustment, and one of the things you can say for the Ryder Cup format, both in the way the matches that were played, the scoring, and the competitors, was changes were made at numerous times throughout the history of the Ryder Cups to make sure that it was a competitive event. In 1973, two things were different. First of all, the matches were played in Scotland, and secondly, players from Ireland could participate on the British team as it was beginning to take on a different flavor than the typical Great Britain concept that we had known through all of the years. During those matches, even though the United States once again won over on the Scottish links, Peter Butler did something that was a little bit unusual for the British team.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bernard Gallagher, once again at the center of all this, fell ill the night before and was forced to withdraw. An hour and a half before the tournament was to begin, Peter Butler was awakened and told he was going to be playing. Now, he's not known for very much as far as match play in the Ryder Cup, but he is known for being the only person to score a hole-in-one at that time.
It was not enough, obviously, as the 1973 matches went to the United States team again. So in 1975, we come back to, of course, Laurel Valley, which Arnold Palmer's father had been a part of that course, a greenskeeper, superintendent, and certainly Arnold still enjoys playing that course. And for those of us who've had that opportunity, it's a gorgeous golf course in Pennsylvania. But in the 1975 matches, coming into Arnold Palmer's home turf, there was another American golfer that had really burst on the scene named Jack Nicklaus, and great things were expected, even by Jack himself.
Yeah, Jack was expected just to totally dominate the Ryder Cup that year, and the first match he actually faced a man by the name of Brian Barnes, and he lost, of all things. And Brian was quite a character. He caused quite a stir that year by showing up wearing shorts and smoking a pipe through the whole match, and still beating Jack. Well, it was the last day of the match, and the Americans were pretty much well ahead, and Arnold wanted to stir up a little fight in Jack, so he called him out, and he said, this Brit here is lording it up here on you, really showing you up here. Well, that got Jack's competitive blood boiling, and he came up to Brian, and he said, I'm gonna beat you today. And Brian thought, well, I should be shaking my boots, but he thought, well, the hell with it. Let's just go play. And you know what? He beat him again, of all things. So the Golden Bear was bested by a man in shorts smoking a pipe.
Well, that certainly didn't change the outcome, as once again the United States team won at Laurel Valley. And so, again, we're back to the issue in 77 of what can we do to make it more competitive. The 40s, the 50s, the 60s dominated by U.S. teams, and so we come into 1977, and there's a format change. We're going to redo the format again. We're going to reduce the number of matches by a third. We're going to go back to 20 total points, and even though that happened, the outcome was no different. But Jack Nicklaus, the great sportsman that he is, led a group from the United States as well as talking with the people in Great Britain to make another change.
It started off very innocuously as a conversation with the head of the European PGA in 1977. He just mentioned, well, this is a great game, but so far the competition hasn't been what it should be. The American dominance had been so overwhelming. Golf had become such an embraced sport, and not only did we have the manpower and the resources, we had more population. It was becoming more of a popular game. We had climate where people could play all year round. So he suggested maybe we should open it up to the Europeans. Well, that sat quite well with the PGA head of the European area, so they took it up, and in '79, that's exactly what happened.
Well, even with that change, the American team still dominated, although the point system was changed one more time to the 28 points that I think most of us are familiar with today, as they have the 4 of each of the categories. But there was a young man named Seve Ballesteros, who was that first non-Great Britain or great non-player from Britain, and he was certainly going to make a name for himself in later matches and in competition here in the United States. But the decade came to an end, and once again, the United States had shut out the British team all the way through. The 80s, things are going to be a little bit different. We'll cover that next time on the Michigan Golfer.